can, implement to protect the organization from these ransomware attacks?
Yeah, as rightly said by Mr. Bahaa, the personal devices are, the device with the mobility wherein the user can directly interact with the internet as one of the key gateway to ransomware incoming to an organization. But the basics, if you think about, we need to have some kind of basic securities in place, which may be against all the, the current vendors in the market, so that you limit the access to the business and with the basic concept of least privilege. When we say about least privilege is that, if your role actually allows you to receive emails from outside, it actually allows you to have internet access during your working hours. That will limit your exposure to the internet, and that will even help all the technologies in order to serve better. It's because once your risk surface is reduced, you have a better vision, a better focus. So if we talk about this thing, is like in a financial institute, working in from last 8-9 years in the financial institute, I can clearly say that 80 to 70% of the roles which in the financial institute does not require to have an interaction with outside world. They don't need to have an internet. It's because their job profile is to do the job which is inside your organization and leave. So in that case, if we can control those incoming emails, stop internet accesses to those specific people, we are reducing the attack surface, and our technologies can better focus on what its actual threat is.
Thank you. Thank you for your insight. Mr. Imran, how you see the ransomware landscape changing over the coming years?
So I see that Qatar, for example, took a cloud-first strategy as part of its cloud policy framework. So we see that at a government level, we are moving it toward the cloud. And we also saw COVID, pushed everyone to work remotely. So it means that there is a significant amount of working away from the office is happening. We see companies struggling to bring their employees back into their own campus because people actually like to have that flexibility of having a mix of working from home and working from the office. Given this new working dynamics, you have to really know where your data is, and you have to know where your data is going. The earlier, I forgot her name, but she mentioned about the zero trust architecture, right? Talking about creating the trusted domain and segregating your data accordingly. So you basically have to know, is your data going to be residing at your premise, or is it going to be on the cloud? If you're going to have also application ecosystem, like, from whether it's on your site, whether it's on your apps, you're not necessarily depending on a single layer of companies. You are actually having companies that your data might be moving from one company to the other companies, because the digital ecosystem is layered by different companies or different components that might be coming from different companies, different apps, and different solutions. If you don't know all the component that's built up and who has your data, you really cannot, see how you're going to be protecting yourself, because it's not just what you can control. It's easy to know for you to control when you know what you have. But it's harder if you don't really know that level of information. So getting to that is to understand not just what you know, what you don't know, and if any of those compromise, any of those, your third-party vendors, your supply chain, if they get compromised, that you have to also know. The other part is basically what we see is AI is here, right? So you also see that the significant amount of data that is out there that actually is, like, for example, the same thing, that if your information, what kind of systems and everything is there, there are, security teams that are trying to use the AI. But same thing that we are seeing that the attackers, they're also leveraging the same technology. So they would be able to think and figure out faster in terms of the changing landscape and where the most likely vulnerable areas are going to be. Like in the presentation earlier was talking about a particular company that has 41 vulnerabilities, right? And this information is publicly, doable. I mean, publicly you can actually do that kind of a assessment. So knowing that, going through that kind of a things, it's very easy for someone to write an algorithm, find out how to really attack, targeting that particular attack, and compromising everyone else who might be actually depending on that particular chain. So the threat landscape is no longer just, I'm going to protect what I know. It's actually, you have to look out much more in getting to understand your threat landscape.
Thank you. Bahaa, as Mr. Imran mentioned about the security challenges we are facing right now. So what are the key components we can implement to make sure that cloud is protected?
The key challenge today with the cloud is, first of all, let's all agree that cloud is here. Cloud is not going anywhere. It's going to be adopted, and this is the way forward for everyone. There's no option. It's there. Now, there are different versions of cloud. You might be having full cloud, and I don't think 100% people will be totally cloud. It's going to be some sort of hybrid between stuff on-prem or stuff in a cloud infrastructure, or completely a SaaS applications that are going to be deployed. So it's three buckets that are open to the users. Now, what's challenging, or what is challenging, is that the security model that we've been working on for the past 20-something, probably more years, is that you have the data center. Everything is sitting in the data center. All your critical servers are there. And in order to get to that, you have one route through a managed device from inside the network. Today, and the whole security model is to do what? To protect the data, correct? This data today is sitting in a data center, possibly in a private infrastructure cloud, or in the cloud, okay? So it's all over the place. The legacy security solutions are not designed to detect, to discover, to prevent attacks when the data is in the cloud. So what companies need to reevaluate their current security posture. They need to look for solutions that cater for this hybrid types of environment. They should be also looking for a couple of additional things. Number one, they should be looking for a single platform that caters for cloud SaaS applications, infrastructure as a service application, and applications that are on-prem. It should be one cloud, because one system that caters for those, because otherwise it's going to make life extremely complicated on the guys managing the security. And the system should have the capability to leverage some of the existing solutions, integrate with, for example, data classification for DLP, utilize those tags. If he's got an on-prem DLP solution, should integrate with those. Should check the AV, whether this device is, before giving him access, whether this device has got the security controls in place, is up to date, blah, 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 before, giving access. So my advice is that this is, because we are in this situation, which is, by the way, it's a good thing to go cloud. It's not bad, it's good. There is a lot of advantages for cloud solutions, but the security controls need to be immediately reevaluated. That's my advice.
Yeah. So what I would add to this is that, as Imran mentioned about the zero trust security.
Yes.
So cloud offers us this flexibility of having this zero trust security in our environment. For different applications, we can implement different sort of security.
Yes.
So, thank you. Anugya, this production environment, we see vulnerabilities in the production environment, and then we patch them. So how important is the production environment and keeping it vulnerability free?
Yeah. So like what Bahaa mentioned is the cloud is going to stay here, right? What organizations are more worried about their journey from on-premise to the cloud. It's not going to happen overnight, right? The journey going to have a plan. It's going to take time. Till that time, you are living with your legacy system, and you are focusing more on the new environment also. So this is that time which, according to the experience, it will be one of the most vulnerable time for the organization. Yeah? If your strategy or if your cloud partner, like, you know, and any day in, day out operation, they said that, yes, we have signed with XYZ, we have signed with XYZ, you know, that put us as a customer also on a list wherein, like, yes, we could be targeted. And once we say that we are targeted, the weakest link is whatever on-premise solutions are, which are yet to be moved to cloud. Having said that, the applications and the vulnerability plays a very major role in terms of having those vulnerabilities sitting with us and focus moving towards the cloud, okay, both ways. So in that case, your vulnerabilities and patching which are happening on your production environment, okay, that is only one part of the story. The another part of the story is your non-production environment, which is your development environment. If you will allow everything to your developers to build an applications to be delivered as a SIT and UAT environment, and then you're going to start patching your servers, you're already lost your half battle. It's because a product which is developed in an open kitchen and then it is being presented as a wrapped around saying that, yes, this is what our final product is, the open kitchen will have their own contaminations over there, right? So we need to clean our open kitchen first. So we need to put more security controls in our development environment so that the people know that what level of maturity an organization is having, how critical it is to have a perfect application built out of it, and then moving to the SIT and UAT and then to the production environment will ease the load on the production environment in terms of patching those things. Having said that, it's like easier said than done, but production environment is important, but equally your non-production development environment is also important because that set the tone that how your application is going to be out and or how your business should look security like. Because if you're going to say yes to everything in your non-production environment and tomorrow when the application comes to the production one and you start figuring out that, okay, this is critical, this is critical, this is high, then the first question which is being asked is, this is the same application in the non-production environment. How can this be, you know, exposed so much? So it's because your securities are very weak in your non-production environment. So that's why vulnerability management, patching of non-production environment, your development environment plays a very major role in terms of having a secure environment in, you know, during your production rollout.
Thank you. So basically, patching, development, and production environment is equally important.
Equally important, equally important. Yeah.
Now, as Bahaa mentioned, like about the cloud transformation and moving to cloud. So once an organization is taking this journey to cloud transformation, do you think that they need to review their security settings for the legacy systems?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not just reviewing their security systems, the security settings for their legacy systems. It's more importantly what they have enabled in the cloud, okay? Because their legacy systems, they've already been doing this and closing this for a good time. And they've already built security around it for a very long time. They know it, they've trained on it, they know what's going on there. The bigger issue is what goes when they adopt the technologies in the cloud, okay, or when they move their applications to the cloud. This is where it becomes a gray area. And the most basic fact in security, you cannot protect what you don't see. If I don't know what's going on, how will I protect it? I mean, Mr. Imran was talking about visibility. You need to have the visibility. What cloud am I using? Where is the data going? Who are the people using it? How are they using this data? Where is this data migrating from what device to what device, from what user to what user? And then place the proper controls, okay, around that. Then you will be in a much better shape. Yes, I would say.
So, Mr. Imran, does the change in supply chain, the vulnerability in the supply chain, increase the change of ransomware?
So I think Bahaa and Anugya also mentioning some of that area. So one of the things is that you need to have the visibility. So we are talking about ransomware. So so we are not necessarily going to talk about all the different security that you can actually provide in there. But what is the critical information, critical asset, if that is compromised, that you cannot actually recover as a business? So what is the data classification and identifying the critical asset is important because it's not possible for you to secure everything that you have. Like in our house, what do we secure more? What do we put it into our safe deposit box or some kind of a locked areas is the most important for each of us. So if you cannot, if your operations, if your business is going to be impacted, you have to really figure out what is that critical asset, and if that gets compromised, that you can actually continue or you can actually recover from it. And we see that a lot of examples where even countries like Costa Rica, we have government, in different countries and companies, including Apple, got ransomware attacked, right? So the issue is that if there are possibly going to be compromised, as we talked about, as more and more intelligence is going to be available to the attackers, right? So they would be most likely be able to attack you, but how do you recover from it? How do you basically not fall into a victim of someone who says, if you don't give me that, I'm not going to release the information to you. Do you have a mechanisms to go back to? And that's what the organization should really focus on. So most vulnerable, most critical asset, find a way. I'm not a security expert, so I'm going to leave that on to Anugya and Bahaa to figure out, but that's what the focus needs to be, to say, this is what the most prized thing that I cannot, if that gets compromised, my organization cannot continue. And focus on that. And we, in that regard, of course, we have, many other aspects to it. So you only can protect as much, so one of the things is that you don't spend more money to protect something that is less valuable, right? So if something is going to cost, you $10 if you lose it, you're not going to pay $100 or $50 or $20 to protect that,
yes,
right? So you have to basically look into saying, this is how much I can actually spend, because this is the value of that. I need to spend this amount of money to protect it. So look at that way, do that, in terms of trying to coming out of the ransomware, like DoD and others says, assume that everything is compromised now, try to protect yourself. So if your data gets compromised, someone has it, whether it's someone internal or someone from external, if it gets compromised, how do you recover? So in the supply chain, again, find out what is the supply chain in that particular supply chain for your stack that you have. You have a platform as a service, or a SaaS as a software as a service, or you might be having an app, and there are different pieces that builds on top of it, right, to make that happen. And some of the data might be, like for example, your authentication might be happening through Google or Facebook or something, right? You are using out of the authentication SSO from somewhere else, or you might have your own. So you have to basically say, okay, if this is basically going to be compromised, because that can be getting compromised, would that be impacting my service? Would that be critical enough for me to recover from it? So from that, you say, okay, now if that gets compromised, how do I do it? Can I see that data compromised? If there are any underlying, like, whether it's an infrastructure, there might be, you're talking about a single cloud, but the reality of the world is that it's not going to be on a single cloud. You are going to have, even if you are hosting your apps in, say, Azure, there would be component that might be coming from Google or Amazon or some other things. And they are also going to be having this data not just in the data center in the different countries. So how do you ensure that those are getting protected and as such? And we saw the simple example when, as Russia as a country could not continue a lot of things because there is an also political situation, that landscape that might change. How do you protect yourself as an organization from that? So you have to consider all those aspects before you, and take that into consideration. And that's, you look into your threat landscape and make sure that you are actually taking that into consideration in your, in your model. So definitely the supply chain is one of the vulnerabilities that sometimes the security department is not really looking at it because they are looking at the asset under their control, then rarely looking at asset that is not under their control, because these assets are not under their control. It is with some third parties, and you are mostly depending on your SLA or some kind of a contractual agreement in trying to protect yourself, but you really are not monitoring their landscape in that. And that's a risk, that's a challenge.
It's a very eye-opener for us as well that you elaborated this that much, because that was the main theme under our topic, that how to safeguard critical processes, right? So first of all, we have to identify the critical processes and functions in our organization, and then we should put all our effort and investment on safeguarding those critical functions and processes. So this brings us to the closure of our discussion. Anugya, any one-liners takeaway for the audience?
So the one-liner that what I feel is that, cloud is a journey, but let's get our basics correct. Let's first protect that what we have, and then start moving them to cloud. Cloud is gonna is there, and it's gonna happen. But let's first clean up our home before we start putting to a new house, right?
So, Bahaa?
Yeah, basically around the same guidelines is that, again, cloud is here to stay, so guys, you need to study well and really re-evaluate your security controls in this journey. That's a key thing.
Mr. Imran?
Know your data, get to know where they are. If you, as Bahaa mentioned, that if you don't see it, you can protect it. So get to know that.
So from my side, start simple, but it's time to get up, take the lead in your organizations, identify the key process owners for all your cybersecurity initiatives, and make them aware that you own the controls, you own these processes. And to me, the cybersecurity is under business ownership. Business has to take the ownership. Technology is a core component of it, but business has to take the ownership. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.